So how's it been going, guys? When Sean contacted me to be part of this, I was like, you guys have a whole thing, right? I was like, is this like a one-day thing? Or she's like, no. This is like a city that comes together, right, and unites this whole community, and y'all are from everywhere. So it's awesome. It is so great to see your beautiful faces here. Let me know if there's any technical sound difficulties or anything, and I can always pick up the mic. So I'm so glad you're spending this hour with me. We're going to have a good time, I promise. I hope that you don't fall asleep on me, and if you do, enjoy your nap, okay? Just enjoy your nap. That's okay. I know that most of you are staying here, and so you had the choice between me and a nap, and I really appreciate that. So, that's saying something when you choose a speaker over a nap time. So anyway, I am Emily Pardy. I own Ready Nest Counseling here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we have currently 3 locations in Middle Tennessee. We have one in the heart of Nashville. We have one north in Clarksville, one in Donaldson, and then starting in August, we're adding one here in Murfreesboro, yay, and one in Franklin as well. And we're looking to build some online curriculum and some online presence as well. And so for those of you who are not local, hopefully in a few months you can look up our YouTube channel and find some content for free, as well as being able to just track us online. You can also follow us on Instagram, and I try to keep a steady flow of just encouraging things, not that fake Instagram-y account. It doesn't look perfect is what I'm trying to say. So at Readiness Counseling, we help individuals and couples transition through the life stages of the whole perinatal phase, and that is conception, pregnancy, postpartum, infertility, and loss. And so I'll be the first to admit to you guys today, I am not an expert on Turner syndrome. I'm probably the only one here who's not an expert on Turner syndrome. And I'm not an expert on you, okay? You know a lot more about that, and you know yourself the best. But what I can speak to is I have women and couples in my office all the time about the entire fertility journey. And so today, speaking to the expertise of infertility and what that journey means to your femininity and your womanhood, that's what I want to get at today. So just wanted to put my information up there if you want to check out our website. And like I said, follow us on Instagram as well. But like I said, today, when we think about fertility and femininity, a lot of times we get stuck on confusing what those words mean, right? Anybody have anything to say about when you hear the word fertility, what pops in your head? I'm going to be real interactive here, guys. So what does that? Goddess. Oh, yes, goddess. Fertility goddess, right? Right? Yes. What about femininity? Kind of the same thing, right? Like goddess. Yes, exactly. Purpose. Yeah. We're going to get to we're going to debunk that one, right? Exactly. Yeah. And then how do you successfully navigate the childbearing years, right, with strength and confidence? Because a lot of times our society or our culture or even your friends, family, might have expectations or want to speak into that part of your life. And you have to really kind of be strong and stand up for yourself. I know each and every one of you at some point has had to advocate for who you are and being able to speak about your own womanhood and just your own personhood. And sometimes that even comes with just explaining, whether it's your diagnosis or just who you are and your preferences and your likes and your beliefs, right? And that's not that everybody has to be able to learn to do that at some point. So there's a lot of cultural assumptions about fertility and femininity. Like we said, our culture, our society, especially here in America, really likes to smush it together. They like to think that they're one and the same. That fertility, like you said, I love that goddess word because it kind of encompasses that whole vision. And there's some assumptions to that when it comes to fertility or femininity, that it should come naturally, right? It should come easily. And not only that, but you should be able to totally enjoy and flourish in every moment of that, right? That you should be fully woman all the time and love that about yourself. And, and so we see these images projected about femininity or pregnancy or motherhood, right? And that a true woman must express herself in that way. And not only that, but it will happen quickly. It will come easily, and you're going to love every minute of it, right? Yeah, I see a lot of you being like, psh, like, no, like, exactly. But it isn't until that point of frustration and pain or devastation that a lot of people end up in my office. And we're having to kind of wrap our mind around, like, where did this come from? Where did this expectation or disappointment or frustration come from? And it really kind of starts with this initial idea that it should have come easily and naturally from the beginning, So instead, today we're going to break this down into 3 kind of tangible steps. I don't know about you, but I'm a real, step person. I like to just, sink my teeth and, thumbs up, right? Sink my teeth into something that's like, all right, Emily, break this down. So a lot of times there's speakers up here, and then I leave, and I'm like, so what am I supposed to do? And here's what you're supposed to do. Today, we're going to talk about that you have a choice. You have a choice that your fertility does not have to be defined by your femininity, and vice versa. You have a choice that you have a voice in how your story is spoken and how it's unique and beautiful and matters. Okay? And then finally, that you deserve to rejoice. That your identity is more than your diagnosis, that you're more than just the sum of your parts, right? And we're going to break that down today for you. So I'm going to bring that word. I swear I didn't plant you in the audience, did I? That you said goddess earlier. But look at this. Is that a goddess picture or what, right? Isn't that the most Instagrammy kind of vision of womanhood? And I'm like, girlfriend is not real at all, guys. I mean, if that's not set up and photoshopped, and I don't even know how you get the wind to blow like that, right? But that is society's expectation. That is what we're scrolling through. Who's a scroller? On your phone all the time. And all that's doing is picking out little parts of you of what you're not, right? I don't see myself there. Not a chance, right? And so we think it's just pretty and fun, but when you internalize that, when you really consume all of those that information, it's also just resetting these expectations. And when I don't see myself in those images, it tears you apart, right? Then if that's femininity, what am I, right? If that's motherhood, if that's perfection, if that's fertility equals me, that doesn't add up, right? So you're not alone in feeling like you aren't seeing yourself out there. The infertility world, in fact, I just want to break this down for you, is the inability to have a child affects 6.7 million women in the U.S. alone, okay? And I don't know if you knew this, but it affects men and women equally. Doesn't it seem like a female issue a lot of times, because you think pregnancy or fertility and you hear those stats and stuff, but it actually is split. A third of infertility is female related, a third is male related, and the remaining third is either unexplained or it's a combination of both. So it's really split. It's shared down the middle there. And 1 in 8 couples experience infertility. Who knows somebody who has dealt with infertility besides yourself? Yeah, we all know. So it's look at those arms. It is rampant, and it is a silent epidemic is what we call it in our field, because nobody talks about it, right? All you hear is the happy stories after, right? Even celebrities that have gone through it, they'll, be on the cover, look at their beautiful baby, right? And they went through 5 years of infertility treatments. It's well, what were they doing that whole time? I didn't hear anything about that. They looked perfect and now they got their baby, right? And so all we see is happy ending, happy ending, happy ending. And in the meantime, there's all this devastation, all this sadness, all this, because they aren't familiar with being able to separate out who they are from what they have, right? And so, and in fact, 60% of infertility cases are what we call secondary infertility. That is, after a baby's already been had and a couple tries to conceive again and is unable to. So, people don't even know that's a thing, right? Secondary infertility is actually the majority of sufferers in the infertility world. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is a story of two friends. And just because of confidentiality, I've changed a couple of things about this story. But so I'm going to call these friends Thelma and Louise. Am I totally aging myself in here? Does anybody know Thelma and Louise? All right, girlfriend. Good. BFFs from the OG, right? Like the original BFFs, right? Don't worry, this story doesn't end like that end. No Cadillacs are being driven off a cliff here. But so Thelma and Louise, they grew up together, best friends, right? And they were fed this image and idea, this narrative as they were growing up that you'll grow up, you'll be beautiful, some boy will sweep you off your feet, you'll get married, and then one day when you love each other and you know you're ready, you're going to have a baby, and you'll get pregnant on your first try, so be careful. Make sure you're with the man you want to be with, and then you'll live happily ever after. Isn't that the narrative? Isn't that's what we're told, right? That's what Disney sold us, right? And so Thelma and Louise grew up with that idea in their heads. Well, Thelma, around the time of high school, got severe endometriosis and then later PCOS, which is two different reproductive traumatic diagnoses that make it extremely difficult to get pregnant. And it's very painful every month. And so she did get married, but every month was told, this is going to be difficult for you, had many surgeries, and was unable to ever conceive. And so she and her husband ended up adopting a little girl. And that was also painful. They got matched one time, and the match fell through. And then they did all the paperwork and all the home visits again, and then finally were able to bring a little girl home. And then she got postpartum depression, because that's a real thing that can happen to adoption moms too. And parenthood was hard, but she got some support, and so she got some counseling, and she got some help. And it's not happily ever after; it's happily every day with a lot of work, right? That's a little more realistic. Meanwhile, her best friend Louise, same story, that yes, this is bound to be your future, never had any issues with her period, never had anything to indicate that she would have any issues getting pregnant. Got married a little bit later in life, did find someone to settle down with, but unexplained infertility, right? Tried and tried and tried, nothing on his side, nothing on her side. Did about 6 or 7 rounds of IUI and then was going in for IVF. And they just had a really hard conversation one day before attempting the next round of fertility treatments, and decided, you know what, this is too much. This is not our purpose. This is not our life. This is not going to consume us. We're going to live child-free. And so they decided to make the hard decision that they were going to, put themselves in a different route, a different lane for their life. And they are happily child-free and being able to make a difference in their lives elsewhere, but also not without pain, right? And so all that to say, between these two women, which of these friends was more of a woman? Who's more feminine? Yeah, they both kind of sound like badass women to me, right? Like, can I get an amen? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There you go. Excuse me, right. That's right. Preach, right? Yes, absolutely, girl. Yes, and for sure you can do better. Yeah, that's right. You got it. And so choosing to redefine the role of femininity in the story of your fertility will empower you to create a story for yourself that's unique to who you are, what you need, and how you impact the world. Okay? Separating that out, being able to own your femininity regardless of your fertility, right? And we know you're not alone, okay? And I shared those stories with you that neither of those women had Turner syndrome, but it doesn't eliminate the fact that just because you have TS doesn't mean you were guaranteed a fertile future, right? And so all of us have so much more in common than we do differences, right? And I'm sure that you've, in more and more of these friends that you're making over this weekend, that you realize, like, okay, maybe Turner syndrome brought us here, but, like, I like that book, and I love that movie, and I like that dress that you're wearing, and, right, like, that is not how you build a friendship on one little diagnosis, right? It's actually, it may bridge the gap to just joining together. And so there's a whole world of infertile women that don't have Turner syndrome that I would invite you to try to make friends with, right? That you are not alone. And no one expected infertility to be part of their own story, right? It's a part of many people's narratives. And regardless of where it shows up, whether, from the day you're born, your parents integrate it into your story and you know that growing up, or whether it's something you discover about yourself later in life, your story matters. It has just as much purpose and beauty as anyone else's. So, like any diagnoses, you know that I'm sure all you have much better ways to teach me about this than I do to you, but I know your diagnosis has taught you things about the world, about relationships, about friendships, things that you would not have otherwise, right? And so I say you have the gift of perspective because everybody has some pain or label or information that's unique to them, that if they know that that is your gift, your perspective, then you can use that perspective to alter your own expectations. And the gift of infertility, and I know it's hard to think of it as a gift some days, you can plan ahead, right? You can plan and think of this perspective as what we'd call advanced recognition, right? This advanced recognition of knowing I can learn my options ahead of time. I can take steps now, and I can invest that information into the relationships I have in the future, and whether that's friends and family or intimate relationship in marriage or going forward. You can maintain the priorities that you want and help create a dialogue to teach the next generation how to do it even better, right? So that crap like that doesn't happen anymore, where somebody's trying to define you and tell you how much of a woman you are or aren't. Right? That should never happen. And so if we can, take that on, it's a gift to the next generation to be able to take that perspective that we have now and kind of pay it forward. So that's where you have a choice. Guess what? You're already enough. You're already complete. You aren't missing out any more than somebody else is, right? This is not a secondary life. Right? There's a lot of times where I have infertile couples come in and they are trying to, live their best life. And the best life only includes this idea of this expectation fulfilled in my head of basically what society has told me is the only way I'm going to have purpose. Right? No. And so when I try to reframe it for them and show them this is your best life, like, it's happening right now. You're living it. This is not secondary route. You're not taking the scenic route to somewhere else. This is it. You're living it right now. And yes, it involves pain and process, and every life does, right? But your feelings are complex and valid, right? That means you can be grateful and disappointed at the same time. You can be happy and angry at the same time. You can be empowered and pissed off at the same time, right? There you go. You can choose what femininity means to you, and your choice will empower you. When you get to know yourself, get to know that empowerment of that choice, then you have a voice, okay? You have a voice that when you speak your story, and that is literally what is happening in your life, who you are, what you're doing, what you care about. You look at what your life is speaking by what you're doing and living and saying, right? Listen to your story. A lot of times people are like, I'm boring. Nobody wants to hear about who I am or what. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Like, once you start telling people, and I know you have told who you are multiple times this weekend to people as you're getting to know each other, you're like, oh wow, I see that reflected back in me. I didn't think that was important, and then I shared who I was, and they were like, me too. Yeah, that's why it matters, right? So I want you to really think about taking inventory of who you are. What is your life speaking? Who inspires you, and who do you inspire? What have you learned so far from this journey that's unique to you? Other people aren't walking in your shoes, right? And so you have the unique gift and perspective that you are the only one who gets to live this life. What do you have then to offer others? I love this quote, and it's from a really good book called Managing the Stress of Infertility. Your infertility experience has the potential to change your life in profound ways. The difficulties of infertility invite you to look within yourself and explore what is meaningful to your own life. Yeah, get a snapshot of that. It's a good one. It's a good one. And honestly, we could swap out the word infertility to TS, right? To wherever you are from, your Nashville experience, right? This conference experience. And the difficulties of your life in general can invite you to look within yourself and explore what's meaningful. Leave that up for just a second. I know some people are there you go, get that snapshot. That's a good quote. Stick that on your Instagram, right? So how do you use your voice? How are you going to practice using your voice? So here's I'm going to load you up with get your shoulders ready, some responsibility, right? I'm going to burden you up with some responsibility because your story is unique to you. Nobody else can know it unless you use your voice. You have the responsibility then to teach your family, your friends, your coworkers, your community, anybody who has ears, basically, ready? To tell your story and tell them what to say, when to say it, how to say it. Right? Just like, and I just love that you spoke up about you're not a woman. I mean, good grief. Like, all I hear in that, first of all, is like, it makes us angry, right? Like, oh, no, she didn't, right? Like, that's where we want to go with that. And then I think, man, she got a lot to learn. And who is going to teach those people who ask those stupid questions if it's not us, right? And so sometimes we got to take that and slow it down and be able to be the teachers of that communication, to be able to say, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about myself. Let me tell you about when my feelings were hurt and how my story was not reflected. Let me tell you about how I felt left out and where I might belong, right? Can we squeeze in and make some room for people like me? Because 1 in 8 or more people are like me, right? And so how then do you say it? What do you say, right? Well, not that, right? We know that. Don't say that to people. That's just wrong, right? But when people are well-intentioned, and this is the majority of the time, right? They try to pat you on the back or say something well-intentioned and like, well, at least, ... Who's ever heard the at least statements? Right? Well, at least you look really cute in that dress. Like, well, at least, At least. Who's got more? Yep. Right. Yeah. Ooh, felt a dagger there, that one. Yeah. All right. That could be a good perspective. Yeah. Right. Anything that starts with at least, get it out. Chuck it to the curb, right? And so we can teach people then, as we're planning ahead on our own journey, what our whole journey is going to look like along the way. You know what? That's not helpful when you say that to me. It makes me feel worse, actually. And I know you love me and you want me to feel better. So instead, could you please say, I love you. I'm here for you. What do you need? How can I help? Right? These are very basic little statements that we're asking people to come alongside us and just be supportive. Just be the person that we can hug or cry to or just talk with. And to freely express those times when we feel like it's unfair, and I don't care if at least blah, 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 blah. Right? So what to say, when to say it, and then how to say it, right? Like you have valid needs, and we need to slow down that communication so that our community around us can learn how to communicate better with us. They want to help you feel better, and they don't know how to do this in a way that pleases you or meets your needs, basically. You have to tell them what you want them to say and be patient, because clearly they need practice, right? Lots of practice, new ways of responding. This is what I'm encouraging you to use your voice, use your story to be able to teach them along the way. Because some of you know your fertility route, some of you don't yet, some of you haven't decided. It's all different, right? And all of that does is make people feel like they're walking on eggshells, right? And so we don't want to have to worry about that. We just need to declare what we need. This is what we need. And guess what? It's okay to make other people uncomfortable. Yes, absolutely okay. How many times have you been uncomfortable? All the time. Yes, it is okay to make other people uncomfortable. And change is not comfortable, right? And so if we want other people to change, we are going to have to share your story and make them a little uncomfortable sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry. I hurt your feelings. Yeah, you did. And now, let me tell you what would help. This would help, right? We don't just leave them hanging. We actually teach them, right? Along the way, this is what I need. As you are learning to then freely express your voice, you can rejoice. Your story reveals who you are. You are really, truly getting to know who you are through this journey. And it's okay, as you're making other people uncomfortable, as you're expressing yourself, to be able to just get to know and then change that. You know what? Now I need this. I learned this about myself. Could you help me with this? Yeah. Oh, do tell. Okay. Good for you. Beautiful. Yes. Yeah. great. Congratulations. Right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. That's right. Yep. Yeah. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right. Was that too personal? Yeah, exactly. How's your sex life, by the way? Let's chat, right? Like, yeah, exactly. And absolutely. Good for you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. Yes. That's right. The well-intentioned, and we do not have to take that well-intention and then sweep ourself and our feelings and our validity under the rug, right? And that's exactly how you handle it, is you turn it into a teachable moment. And people are very receptive of that, because then they realize, oh my gosh, I also said that to so-and-so and her cousin and that person, and you know what? We've done that too. I know, we've all been in the situation where until we've experienced it ourselves, we thought, oh, I used to think this about that, or I didn't know that. And so, we've made uncomfortable statements and then learned and grown and become more compassionate. So that's a beautiful way to be able to do that. And so we will have time for Q&A at the end. So don't worry. I want to hear your stories, but I'm going to keep rolling so we can fit everything in here. We're almost to the end here, and we'll jump to Q&A. But I want to make sure that you grasp that joy is not reserved for the fertile. It's not reserved for the childbearing. Joy is not sectioned off only for, the goddess, the perfect, the Instagrammed. You got to get to know who you are in order to capture the joy that you deserve. Getting to know yourself. I like to encourage people to do what I call a preference inventory. And that's a fancy word for what do you like and what do you don't like, right? But literally make a list. Get out your phone and start taking notes. Make a Pinterest board if that's your thing. Sometimes I'll go old school and get a pile of magazines and just chop it up and be like, hey, do you like that lipstick color? Do you like to watch The Bachelor and not tell anybody? Do you like to, just be flipping through the pages and see, hey, I like that. It has nothing to do with anybody else, right? And this can be ever-changing and ongoing. Our preferences are always kind of, changing with what the trends are or what we're into. But, if you are Friendsaholic like I am and watching it on Netflix, and Friends can never be bad or put me in a bad mood, and it's like, oh, that's old, that's in the night. Yes, and I still love it, gosh darn it, and so own what you like. Get that preference inventory. This is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Those simple things, because it's probably been when you were 5 years old that somebody last asked you what your favorite color was, right? Yeah, and yet our color, maybe it's not red anymore. I don't know. Nobody's asked me since I was 5 years old. Oh, now it's green. Now it's pink. Now, so simple little things like that to just get in touch, because they're reflections of who you are. It sounds like the simplest little thing, but if we don't even know our favorite color, how are we supposed to stand up for ourselves when we're in an awkward, uncomfortable moment? You are more than enough. We've covered a lot today, and I hope that it's encouraged you to recognize that you do have a choice, you do have a voice, and that is your story. And in the end, you are more than the sum of your parts. That is exactly what's going to lead you to rejoice in who you are. And when you rejoice in who you are, guess what? People want to get to know you. People want to get to know where is that joy coming from, and how can I get in on some of that, right? You're more than your diagnosis. You always have been. And every person you meet deserves to get to know who that is. That's right. You. So thank you so much for listening to me drone on and on. Thank you. We're going to open the floor up, and here's where I want to hear your at leasts. I want to hear when you stick up for yourself and any questions that I might be able to answer. Yes. Good. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It catches you off guard because we are well-intended, right? And we don't know what to say. And then that's where the education stops, right? It's like, I don't know if I should say anything. Better not. Or I don't know if I should say anything. How's the next baby coming along? You know, it's like this awkward exchange. Nobody sits down and is finally like, okay, here's what you should say or not say. Ugh. That's just we just heard the bomb drop, right? Like, so sorry. Yeah. There was someone in the back. Yes. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So sorry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those wounds run deep, and they don't even know that those words have so much weight to them. Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting, too, because,
It's so true. Yeah. Well, and yeah. Yeah. Well, and can we just say, you don't have to give birth to be a mother, right? Yeah. Yeah. I know we, at Readiness, we really value the role, obviously the role of a mother in multifaceted ways. And when Mother's Day came along, we did the same thing for Father's Day, but we had what was called a Broken Hearts Mother's Day brunch. And so the day, it was the Saturday before Mother's Day on the Sunday, that we held a free brunch for anyone who had a difficult time with Mother's Day. And that was it. And for fathers, we had the Father's Day Broken Hearts Brew. And so we had them, whether it was lost dads, whether it was a strained relationship, whether it was infertility, whether, whatever wound that was. Because, again, our culture does such a crappy job of recognizing the depth of something like that, right? It's all Hallmark and cards and happy, and then, it must bring up all good feelings for everyone all the time, right? And instead, we are complex beings with multiple emotions, and we can be happy we have a mom and sad we aren't one. And we can be, grateful and disappointed, just like I said before. So, yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, so much, yeah.
revealing the gender of my child, never getting to name my children, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and so your stories, like, you got to put that out on social media. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, there is so much value to that, because what if that flooded your feed? And finally, a girl who's 11, 12, and just starting to feel alone and isolated sees your beautiful faces living life, a fulfilled, awesome, joyful, friendship-ridden life, right? Yeah. 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 Yeah, we'll go down the line here. Yeah.
I mean, at my age, I'm an older woman.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Woo!
and right now, I'm going through beginning to divorce after 23 years. And my husband has a stepdaughter who just had a baby. I was
Cool.
involved in the baby shower, the gender reveal,
Hmm.
but I never tried to show how hard it is on me.
Yeah.
Because and now that we're divorcing, they're not having anything to do with me.
Hmm.
So, my husband said he wants to stay friends,
Yeah.
but everybody else seems to hate me.
So complex. Yeah.
Baby shower, I was supposed to freaking major surgery I had to have.
Oh.
That's my friend. I did.
Yeah.
Because that baby shower up in upstate New York where we're from.
Whew. God bless you.
I don't live there right now with my husband. I live in Baltimore.
Wow.
It was more important to me than my own health, my own being there for her, and
Wow.
the gender reveal, and
All the things.
and
Mm.
everything. My surgeon almost had a fit with me.
Mm.
Sorry.
What a gift. Yeah. Oh. Mm. Yeah, and so invalidating, right? That we need to be able to speak that freely, because how many people here are nodding now, like, oh yeah, oh, I've been to a baby shower, oh, I've had to throw a baby shower. Yeah.
And I was enjoying it with her for her. But to be
Yeah.
treated like
Happy and sad. Yeah. You can be joyful and pissed off at the same time. It's a lot to hold. It's a lot to hold. Yeah. Yeah.
what I'm your advice for people who say to you, like, oh, this man made me okay, okay,
Ugh.
like, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to have a kid naturally. Like, no, like, you don't know that, like, I don't even know how to begin to, like, defend myself. But it's like, oh, it's meant to be, you're not supposed to have, like,
Yeah. So great question. I mean, we've all gotten that, like, backhanded weird advice, right? It's kind of in the category of, like, God. It's like that omniscient, they're trying to be God, right? Like, oh, there's a purpose and meaning for this. And you're like, yeah, but I'm sad. So what does that leave me? So I'm going to give you a little tip here, and it's really just to kind of diffuse the situation and protect yourself. We can't change the other person, right? But teachable moment, is you would assume they're well-intentioned, okay? That they're offering you some kind of condolences or advice because they care about you or are trying to appear that way, right? So first, we want to acknowledge that and say, thank you so much for thinking of me. And I want you to just have that in your back pocket. Here you go. Thank you so much for thinking of me. And then to be like, actually, that's not helpful. But you know what? I have purpose. Totally. I have a purposeful life. It may not include kids in the way that you would traditionally think about giving birth to a kid, but I influence people. Don't let that not be happening in my life, right? Like being in relationship, you can't be one-sided. You have to get to know me and get to know each other. So first, I just want you to know, like, thank you so much for thinking of me. Actually, I have a very fulfilled life. Next, like literally just being able to like stop their speech with gratitude and then know that like anything they're going to say actually doesn't bring or add more purpose to your life. You're already full up on purpose. You're good, right? And because we know that's That's just not true. There is suffering, and there is bad things, and there are wants and needs that we all have, every single person, that won't necessarily come to fruition. And that doesn't necessarily, it's all our expectations. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going down the wrong road or that it would have been better the other way, right? Yeah. Yeah, all right, I'm going to go way in the back. You've had your hand up a while. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, oh my goodness, can we just say all choices are hard? Like, all of those choices are hard. There's not one fertility journey that's easy. Like, there just isn't a route that's like picket fences the whole way. And again, that's what Instagram and social media and those stories. And let me tell you, I know some women who have come in and they are elite influencers, right, that I have treated, that are on the outside. If you follow them, and they have a lot of followers, perfect, right? Perfect lighting, looking great. They got multiple kids. They got their stuff together. It's like crazy. They come in, they can't, they're not. It's not true, okay? And yes, some of them, it's unintentional. They just post once in a while and they're not, it's not their business. Other ones, that's the image they're told to uphold, right? And so it's really scary. It really is like this business of social media. And that's one reason we have an Instagram account for Readiness Counseling, because it's just encouraging and honest and quotes. And I'm me, like, I'm going to screw up sometimes, and that's how it is. And so when I say it's okay to make other people uncomfortable, I mean it. Like, because it will. And there's some conversations I've had to say where I'm going to be like, hey, I'm about to make you really uncomfortable, but she just had a miscarriage. Or they just had a loss, or actually this is an infertility support group, right? Or I remember I was bringing in, what was it? Oh, all the drinks and stuff for our Father's Day Broken Hearts brew. And this guy was like, oh, can I help get the elevator for you? What's going on? You guys having a party? And I was like, yeah, we're celebrating the strength of how it is to endure Father's Day when it's really painful. Like if you've lost your father, if you've lost a child, or if you have a strained relationship, or you're infertile. And he was like, oh. He's like, that sounds like a hard party. I was like, yeah, life is hard. That's why we're throwing a party, because it takes endurance and strength and resilience. Let's celebrate that, right? Yeah. Yeah, a couple more. Yeah.
I'm the type who feels empowered by sharing my story.
Woo!
Feelings in general, I really like to. And particularly when it comes to working through that choice, which I understand obviously, of how to pursue.
Yeah.
Building a family. Obviously going to be the and discussing that together.
Of course.
But there's some close people you want to share that with, especially like some moms in our lives and things like that. And they worry for us because they're good about it.
Yes.
Love us, right? And it's like, well, adoption has these risks and IVF has these risks, and their minds go straight to the risks, which
Yep.
is completely understandable.
Sure.
But like you said, not always helpful.
Yes. Rarely helpful, right?
Appreciate it, but it doesn't really help make that decision easier. Do you have anything that you found that's been helpful to say or to do? Because those are people you still naive there.
Yeah.
Say and you still want to share them.
Yes.
But how do you
Whew, yeah, those grandmas, they love to insert themselves, don't they, right? Yeah, and that's even before the baby comes. Just wait till after there is a baby to insert themselves, right? Yes, absolutely. Great question. So, again, it does kind of start with the gratitude. Thank you so much for thinking of us, But it's all about expectations, and the earlier the better, right? So if you think back to even like wedding planning or birthday party planning or whatever you've done to collaborate, and you've been like, I didn't ask her to bring the cake. Who asked her to bring the cake? Okay, hey, this is the journey we've chosen. Again, we've chosen, right? Here's the steps that we're going to take. You have done such a wonderful job parenting us that we are well equipped to make decisions on our own. In fact, here are all the resources that we have been researching and the doctors that we have who are experts, not you, right? And we would really appreciate it if you could do the following things along our journey, right? Send me encouraging texts. Send me a meal once in a while, right? Shop for this or that particular thing, right? What are your moms actually really good at? Well, she can clean the house like a demon, so get her sweeping, right? And so being able to literally task assign along the way that fulfills a need for you and makes them feel like they are loving you well. Because that's where that insertion comes from, is like, I need to be needed. I'm your mama. I want to be there for you. But it isn't through advice or expertise, and they're not going to know more than you or your doctors, right? And so to be able to kind of teach again and again, you know how you love me so well. Can you make that mac and cheese again, Mom? That feels love, I have a doctor to worry about this. I have this book to tell me about this. What I need from you, Mom, is this. Right? And when you dangle that shiny object of need right in front of those mamas, they go running for sure. And so that's how you be able to kind of distract them appropriately, because your mom does have something that she can love you well with, but it isn't through the routes that's where it feels prickly and unsafe, right? So yeah, thank them and then assign them. Yeah. Couple more. Mm-hmm.
And basically every chapter that you get through, it's not just going to be some boring old chapter on how a person was looking at the grass or the paint drawing.
Right.
Something really bad has to happen. Something hard has to happen before you get to the contact of the book, and then you have the solution.
Yeah.
Either that, or books have multiple climaxes.
Yeah.
I had two serious boyfriends, dated, on and off, two main serious boyfriends. The first boyfriend, long story short, it's like a Lifetime movie, but the ex-girlfriend called back and said, just to let you know, I've still been sleeping with this guy. I can give him some things that he can't. And I thought she meant like bigger boobs or something in the bedroom, but she totally meant kids. So they were cheating, and so we broke up. The guy I met now, where she live?
Yeah, right? Well, it sounds like you dodged a bullet to me, right? Yeah.
And my mom absolutely lost it when, she was like, where she live?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kicked it into the curb and was totally
There you-
fine with it.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, aren't you losing? Aren't you having some kind of mental breakdown? Where's your 12 gallons of Ben and Jerry's? I left her for a reason.
Good for you. Yeah.
The guy I'm with now, I bought our tickets to the conference every year for the past 3 years.
Awesome.
We talk about fertility and everything like that, and sometimes it makes me feel a little paranoid that things are going too well, but it is my part of my story, and it's the part I'm choosing to be in right now.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. Awesome. All right. We'll take these two, and then I'll have to say goodbye. Now, I'll be at my table after. I'm right out there if you need to get a one-on-one with me. Yeah.
All right, so I have to say that I really love your stuff today. You're fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me, it's always such a hard thing, especially because I've noticed that the whole time you're
Yeah.
I actually had a very, very, this is kind of my story. To make it short and sweet, I got multiple courses where people have been taken and not realized how punchy of a subject fertility can be. Even
Yeah.
just in general, helps sensitive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not behind my back and told me like the guy I liked died, was infertile, and then my guy friend like ditched me after 2 years after I got hit that I wasn't interested. She told me like fertility is disgusting.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. We're going to need a lot of addresses later to send some hate mail, right? Oh. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's multiple, like, lots of problems, issues there, and similarly to my I finally found my guy who seems to understand it, and actually, my own purpose was he looked it up later on, if that gives any indication. So,
Good.
so yeah, it's just, I really appreciate things
Good.
like this, where they give me some sense of hope that, like, hey,
Oh.
my fertility is not.
You guys are beautiful. Oh my goodness.
I feel like I speak for a lot of us and
Good. Good. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Goodness sakes. I think there was someone. Yes. Last question. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Good for you. Teachable moment, right? On a dime there. That's right. That's right. That's okay. There was one more. What? Okay. Go ahead. Phil and Alex. Phil plus Alex. Got it. On YouTube. Cool. Great. See, this is how we learn about all those resources and stuff. And the more that you can then get on your phone, say, your story, who you are, that shift the climate, then, the next generation, think of this conference 10 years from now. I hope they don't even need me. Right? Because they're like, oh, we got this thing figured out. Everybody's got their voice. Everybody's speaking from their own choices, right? And we're just rejoicing together. So thank you very much. Come visit me if you would like to get to know more. My privilege.